Good morning. This is video 12. This is the law. This is in the book of Ruth, chapter 3. But video 12, we're going to talk about the kinsman redeemer and what the role of the kinsman redeemer was. So let's turn in our Bibles to Leviticus chapter 25. Leviticus chapter 25, and we're going to start with verse 23. When God gives these laws to Moses to tell them to the people, to the leaders of the people, and tell them to the people, these laws are for when you go enter the land. This is the way I want you to set up your government. This is the way I want you to act. This is the way I want you to live. So these are the laws for the land. There are many laws. There are, one guy counted, I believe it was Rambam or Rashi, counted, there were 613 laws. There are 365 do not do this. And there are 268 do this. Some of the laws have to do with men and men only. Some of the laws have to do with women and women only. Some have to do with priests. Some have to do with the high priest. Some have to do with living in the land. Some have to do with wherever you are. And so there's various laws for various places. Now, some of the laws, when it talks about bringing such and such to the temple does not exist today. So it's kind of hard to bring your offering to the temple. And no, the church today is not the temple that it's talking about. It's talking about the temple in Jerusalem. However, when it's talking about bringing the things to the temple, yes, we could bring our tithes to the church. We could bring an offering to the church and say, give this to the poor. But what's the church going to do with a lamb when you bring a lamb? What's the church going to do with 2 truckloads of squash that you raised in your field? Okay, and so that would be kind of hard. So we give money today, or we give it to an organization. Now, in chapter 25 of Leviticus, I've given you enough time to turn there. It's talking about the land. This is the actual dirt. It's the property. It's the real estate of the land. The land must not be sold permanently because the land is mine and you are only aliens and my tenants. Throughout the country that you hold as a possession, you must provide for the redemption of the land. Now, here's the kinsman redeemer. If one of your countrymen becomes poor and sells some of his property, this is real estate, his nearest relative is to come and redeem what his countryman has sold. If, however, a man has no one to redeem it for him, but he himself prospers and acquires sufficient means to redeem, he is to determine the value of the years since it was sold and refund the balance to the man to whom he sold it. He can then go back to his own property. But if one does not acquire the means to repay him, what he has sold will remain in the possession of the buyer until the year of Jubilee. So now we've got another thing that has jumped in there all of a sudden. And he can then go back to his property. So what this amounts to is if you are poor, you don't have any money, you can't make any money, and you need to sell your land. Now, this is the land that was given to you as an allotment when your family, your forefathers went into Israel. After they come out of Egypt, they wandered in the desert for 40 years. They come into Israel. Then they have this land that was allotted to them by each tribe. They were allotted so much land. If a man becomes poor and he decides that he's going to sell that, the value of the land is dependent upon how much barley can be produced in a year and how many years it is left until the year of Jubilee, which is the 50th year. So if you sell the land on the, let's just say the second year after the Jubilee, you've got 48 years to work that land to raise crops on it. Now, it might be good land for wheat, but that doesn't matter. It might have olive groves on it, and that might not matter. It's how much barley that you can raise on that land. That's what it sells for. Now, the man also that buys it is under the understanding that he has only got it till the next year of Jubilee, which is 48 years down the road. So at the year of Jubilee, it will return back to this man that owns it, that is selling it, or to his family. Now, there are different laws concerning walled cities and houses within walled cities, and there are different laws concerning Levites that owns houses. We're just talking about agricultural land out there now. Okay, and so the year of Jubilee, every 50 years, it goes back to the original owner. This is different than the Sabbath year. You don't, the Sabbath year is every 7 years, you do not raise a crop. God will miraculously cause the crop that you have planted on the 6th year to he will cause it miraculously to produce 3 times the amount of food, and he will cause that food to stay, that it won't rot, it won't deteriorate. It will stay fresh for 3 years. Now, why 3 years? Number one, in the 6th year, you're eating on it. The 7th year, you do not plant a crop, you do not harvest a crop, you don't go out there or anything. That's for the poor. Then the 8th year, or the first year, the next one, is when you plant again. So you've gone 3 years now, and you're planting again. And so that's the years of the Sabbath years. But the land doesn't change, does not change hands and go back to its original owner. So who has the right to bring this land back into the family? Well, he's called the kinsman redeemer. He is a person that is in your family that can go to whoever you sold that to and buy it back and keep it in the family. Now, of course, he's got to buy it back for the amount of money that is still left to owe it, left on it. If the guy keeps, if a man keeps the land for 10 years and then the kinsman redeemer brings it back, he's going to have to pay, let's just say in our original example, the man sold it at the 2nd year, so there's 38 years left. He's kept it for 10 years, now there's 28 years left. He's got to pay the kinsman redeemer must pay 28 years worth of value of that land back to the man to refund it to him. And so that's the way the kinsman redeemer works. It has nothing to do with the law of the Levite marriage. Okay, now as we get into Ruth chapter 3, we're going to see that that Naomi is doing something here for Ruth, that she's acting as a go-between. She's trying to find Ruth a husband. And so next time we will talk about this and go further into Ruth chapter 3.